What if everything you've been taught about reality is backwards? What if, instead of you adapting to the world around you, the world has been quietly adapting to you all along, responding to invisible signals you didn't even know you were sending? I know that sounds impossible, maybe even a little unsettling, but stay with me here, because what you're about to discover might completely transform the way you see your life, your challenges, and especially your potential. There's a hidden architecture inside your mind, a code that's been running in the background since the day you were born, silently shaping every experience you've ever had. Most people never realize it exists. They spend their entire lives reacting to circumstances, believing they're at the mercy of external forces, unaware that they've been holding the keys to reality the entire time. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, here's where things get interesting. For decades, traditional psychology dismissed certain methods of mental reprogramming as too radical, too fast, or simply too good to be true. They preferred slower, more controlled approaches. But there was one visionary who refused to accept those limitations. Her name was Florence Scovel Shinn, and she understood something that modern neuroscience is only now beginning to validate: that what we call reality isn't actually an objective external fact waiting to be discovered. It's a projection, a living reflection of our internal mental structure. Think about that for a moment. The world you see, touch, and experience isn't separate from you. It's being filtered, interpreted, and literally constructed by your beliefs, your emotions, and the subconscious patterns you've been carrying around for years. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up in a bad mood, and suddenly everything seems to go wrong that day. Or you feel genuinely confident about something, and opportunities start appearing out of nowhere. That's not coincidence, that's the code at work. Florence Scovel Shinn proposed what she called the neuronal field theory, a revolutionary idea that suggested our brains aren't just passive receivers of information, but active creators of experience. She believed there's a universal field of infinite possibilities surrounding us at all times, and that our minds act like tuning devices, selecting which version of reality we'll experience based on our dominant internal frequency. Your thoughts, your emotions, your deepest beliefs, they're not just happening inside your head. They're broadcasting outward, collapsing potential into form, shaping the very fabric of what shows up in your life. And here's the really fascinating part. She discovered that you don't need years of therapy or complicated techniques to shift this code. Sometimes all it takes is a single question asked at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right way, to unlock doors you didn't even know existed. What you're about to learn isn't theory. It's a practical method that bridges ancient spiritual wisdom with cutting-edge understanding of how consciousness actually works. And when you understand how to work with this hidden code. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic, because understanding this next piece is absolutely critical to making any real transformation in your life. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that reality is this solid, unchangeable thing happening to us. We walk through our days assuming that what we see is what is, that the chair is just a chair, that the circumstance is just the circumstance, and that we're merely observers moving through a pre-existing world. But that's not what's actually happening. What's really going on is far more profound and far more empowering than most people ever realize. Everything you're experiencing right now, the relationships, the financial situation, the opportunities or lack thereof, isn't coming at you from some external source. It's being projected outward from within you. Think of your mind as a cinema projector and the universal field as an infinite screen of pure potential. That field contains every possible version of your life. Simultaneously, the version where you're thriving, the version where you're struggling, the version where everything flows effortlessly. They all exist as possibilities. But here's the hidden truth. Your internal mental structure is what determines which possibility collapses into your actual lived experience. If this resonates with you, subscribe to the channel. This is where we explore the deeper truths about consciousness and transformation, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. Your beliefs act like filters. Your emotions act like magnets. Your subconscious patterns act like programming code, running silently in the background, selecting which data from this infinite field will become your reality. Most people never examine this code. They inherited beliefs from their parents, absorbed limitations from their culture, and adopted fears from past experiences. And then they wonder why their life keeps playing out the same patterns over and over again. The impact of this understanding is staggering because it means you're not stuck. You're not a victim of circumstances. You're actually the artist who's been painting the canvas this entire time, just unconsciously. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Modern quantum physics has actually caught up to what spiritual teachers have been saying for centuries. In the famous double-slit experiment, scientists discovered something that shook the foundations of classical physics. Particles of light behave completely differently depending on whether they're being observed or not. When no one's watching, they act like waves of possibility. But the moment consciousness observes them, they collapse into definite particles with specific locations. The observer literally influences the behavior of matter. Your consciousness isn't separate from reality. It's actively participating in creating it. This isn't mysticism or wishful thinking. This is documented scientific evidence showing that the external world responds to who you are on the inside. Your state of being, your dominant frequency, your internal conviction about what's possible. These aren't just thoughts floating around in your head. They're signals being broadcast into the field, and the field is responding with precision. Every decision you make, every emotion you sustain, every belief you hold is essentially a vote for which version of reality you'll experience next. The journey from where you are to where you want to be isn't about forcing change in the external world. It's about shifting the internal code so that a different reality naturally emerges. And once you understand this mechanism, once you see behind the scenes of how consciousness actually works, write in the comments, "I'm ready to shift my reality." The real revelation here is understanding just how much of your life is actually being run on autopilot. Most people believe they're making conscious choices throughout their day, that they're in control of their decisions and responses. But research shows that more than 90% of your daily decisions are actually being influenced by unconscious processes. Think about that. 9 out of 10 choices you make aren't coming from your conscious, rational mind at all. They're being directed by a hidden operating system that's been running in the background since childhood, quietly determining what you attract, what you avoid, and what you perceive as possible or impossible. This subconscious layer of your mind is where the real power lives, but it's also where the hidden obstacles hide. Your subconscious stores everything. Every comment your parents made about money when you were 5 years old, every heartbreak you experienced, every moment you felt rejected or unworthy. It holds beliefs you inherited from your family, patterns you absorbed from your culture, and emotional memories you don't even consciously remember anymore. And here's the thing that changes everything. Your subconscious doesn't think, analyze, or question. It simply obeys. It accepts whatever has been programmed into it as absolute truth and then works tirelessly to keep that truth alive in your experience. So, if somewhere deep in your subconscious you believe that love always leads to pain, your mind will unconsciously sabotage healthy relationships. If you carry an inherited belief that money is hard to earn or that success requires suffering, your subconscious will make sure those beliefs stay validated in your reality. It's not trying to hurt you, it's just doing its job, maintaining consistency with what it considers to be true. This is why affirmations alone often fail. You can stand in front of a mirror saying, "I am abundant," 1,000 times. But if your subconscious holds a contradictory belief, it will reject that statement like a body rejecting an incompatible organ transplant. But there's an even more fascinating mechanism at play here that most people have never heard of. Inside your brain, there's a filter called the reticular activating system, and it's one of the most powerful forces shaping your daily experience. Every single second, you're being bombarded with billions of pieces of sensory information: sounds, sights, sensations, possibilities. Your conscious mind can't process all of that, so the reticular activating system acts as a gatekeeper, deciding what gets through to your awareness and what gets filtered out. And here's the critical part. The criteria it uses isn't logic or usefulness. The filter is based entirely on what your subconscious considers relevant. In other words, what you believe internally literally determines what you're able to see externally. If your subconscious believes that opportunities are scarce, your reticular activating system will screen out evidence that contradicts that belief. You could be surrounded by open doors, helpful people, and perfect timing, but your brain simply won't register them. They'll be invisible to you. This is the hidden truth behind why some people seem to have all the luck while others keep hitting walls. It's not that the opportunities aren't there. It's that their internal filter has been set to a frequency that makes those opportunities undetectable. The impact of this realization is profound because it means transformation isn't about changing what's out there. It's about reprogramming what's in here, adjusting the filter so you can finally perceive the reality that's been waiting for you all along. Put down, I'm reprogramming my filter. So knowing all of this, the question becomes, how do you actually reprogram that subconscious filter without triggering resistance? Because here's where most people get stuck. They try positive affirmations, they repeat mantras, they stand in front of mirrors declaring things they don't genuinely feel, and it creates this uncomfortable internal friction. When you say, I am wealthy, but your bank account tells a different story, your subconscious immediately rejects it. It feels like a lie, and that dissonance actually reinforces the old pattern rather than creating a new one. But there's a back door into the subconscious that bypasses this resistance entirely, and it's surprisingly simple. Questions. Well-formulated questions act like shortcuts, slipping past the conscious mind's defenses and planting seeds directly into your subconscious programming. Unlike statements that your mind can argue with, questions create a cognitive gap that your brain is actually hardwired to fill. The human mind cannot tolerate an unanswered question. It's psychologically uncomfortable. So when you ask something, your brain automatically starts searching for an answer, gathering evidence, building connections, all without you having to force anything. If this gave you a new perspective, tap that like button. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. Here's the transformation that happens. Instead of affirming, I have abundance, which might trigger doubt or disbelief, you ask, why has it become so easy to live with so much abundance lately? Notice the difference. You're not claiming something. You're assuming it's already true and asking your mind to explain why. This bypasses resistance completely because you're not fighting your current beliefs. You're inviting your subconscious to find proof of a new reality. And once you ask that question with genuine curiosity and elevated emotion, your reticular activating system immediately adjusts its filter to start noticing evidence that supports the premise of the question. Your mind begins scanning your environment for reasons why abundance is easy. It starts recognizing opportunities you would have missed before. It recalls moments that validate this new perspective. The question becomes a command disguised as curiosity, and your subconscious obeys it without resistance. This is how you start shifting the code from the inside out, not through force or repetition, but through intelligent redirection of your mind's natural seeking mechanism. Now, when you combine this technique with a specific state of consciousness, the impact multiplies exponentially. Florence Scovel Shinn understood that there's a level of awareness where manifestation doesn't feel like work anymore. It becomes inevitable. She called this the God state, not in a religious sense, but as a reference to the highest vibrational frequency a human being can access. In this state, there's no separation between what you want and what you have. You're not hoping or wishing or trying. You're simply being the version of yourself for whom the desire is already fulfilled. This isn't achieved through mental gymnastics or forced visualization. It emerges naturally when three elements align: full presence in the now, elevated emotions that expand your energy field, and complete identification with your new identity. When you're fully present, not dwelling on past patterns or anxiously projecting into the future, your power concentrates in this moment. When you feel genuine gratitude, joy, or peace, not as a technique, but as a lived experience, your frequency rises to match the reality you're calling in. And when you stop acting like someone who's waiting for change and start embodying someone who already lives that reality, the universe stops responding to your desire and starts responding to your vibration. This is where the journey shifts from effort to alignment, where decisions become effortless and the hidden truth reveals itself. You were never separate from what you were seeking. Write in the comments, "I embody my new reality." The fascinating thing about all of this is that there's a specific moment in your day when this entire process becomes exponentially more powerful, and most people waste it completely. I'm talking about the 60 seconds right before you fall asleep. That tiny window of time is one of the most potent opportunities. You have to reprogram your subconscious, yet most of us spend it scrolling through our phones, replaying the day's stresses, or drifting off to random thoughts. But behind the scenes, something extraordinary is happening in your brain during this transition. As you move from wakefulness into sleep, you enter what's called the hypnagogic state. Your brain waves shift from beta, which is your alert, thinking state, into alpha and theta patterns. These are the same frequencies your brain operated in when you were a young child, completely open, receptive, absorbing information without questioning it. In this state, the barrier between your conscious and subconscious mind dissolves. There's no filter, no resistance, no analytical mind pushing back. Whatever you impress upon your consciousness in these final moments before sleep goes directly into the subconscious and gets processed throughout the night as if it were absolute truth. Florence Scovel Shinn understood this window as a direct portal into the neuronal field, a moment when you can plant seeds that will reshape your entire perceptual reality. So here's how you use it. Before bed, disconnect from distractions. Lie down, breathe deeply, and relax every part of your body. Bring yourself into a state of peace and presence. Then, instead of reviewing problems or worrying about tomorrow, you do something different. You enter the feeling of your desire already fulfilled. Not visualization, feeling. What would it feel like emotionally if what you wanted had already happened? Peace, freedom, excitement, gratitude, whatever the genuine emotion is, let it fill you completely. And then, at the peak of that feeling, you ask your question. Not a desperate plea, but a genuine inquiry framed as if it's already real. Why has everything been flowing so perfectly lately? Or, what shifted in me that made this transformation so natural? The question assumes fulfillment. It bypasses doubt. And then you fall asleep in that state. You don't return to worry or analysis. You let that vibration be the last signal you broadcast before your consciousness shifts into the subconscious realm. During the night, this frequency gets processed, integrated, and reorganized as part of your mental structure. You wake up different, even if you don't consciously notice it at first. When you repeat this practice consistently, the impact compounds rapidly. Your subconscious begins accepting this new identity as truth. And when that happens, something remarkable occurs in your waking life. Decisions start aligning. Opportunities appear, the right people show up, and this is where the 48-hour window comes into play. Accelerated manifestation happens when there's total coherence between your internal state and your external actions. It's not about waiting passively for things to change. It's about maintaining continuous vibrational alignment throughout your day while taking micro actions that match your new identity. If you're calling in prosperity, how does a prosperous person organize their morning? If you're embodying confidence, how does that version of you respond to small challenges? These aren't grand gestures. They're subtle adjustments in behavior that send confirmation signals to your subconscious. This is who I am now. And as you hold this alignment and remain open to unexpected pathways, reality starts bending toward your new frequency with surprising speed. The journey from intention to manifestation collapses because you're no longer creating resistance with doubt or contradictory actions. You're simply being consistent with who you've decided to become, and the external world has no choice but to reflect that back. So if you've made it this far, I want you to know that says something important about you. You're not here for quick fixes or surface-level content. You're genuinely on a path of transformation, seeking the deeper truths that actually create lasting change. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of person I create these videos for. If this resonated with you, if something clicked or shifted while you were watching, I'd love for you to join this community by subscribing to the channel, because what we explore here isn't just theoretical, it's practical wisdom that bridges science, spirituality, and real-world application. The kind of content that can genuinely impact your decisions, your mindset, your entire journey. And when you subscribe, you're making sure you don't miss the next revelation that might be exactly what you need to hear at exactly the right moment. Also, leave a comment down below saying, "This message was meant for me, so I know you were here until the end." I read every single comment, and it creates this beautiful connection, knowing we're all walking this path together, supporting each other's transformation. And if you felt value in what we explored today, just tap that like button. It helps more people discover this content, and honestly, it lets me know this message is landing the way it's meant to. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into how your consciousness shapes reality in ways you probably haven't considered yet. Click and continue with me over there. I promise it's worth your time. I'll see you in the next one.